everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Matta Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. In the heat of the moment, I want you to ask yourself this one question. How do you want the story to end? This is a question that I asked myself several times over the weekend as I completed a 200-mile relay from Fort Collins, Colorado to Steamboat Springs. It was absolutely incredible, and I'm so excited to share with you my experience, the lessons learned, just everything that came from the ups and the downs of the entire adventure. But before we jump into that talk, let's go ahead and talk about the talk of the week. So, while we were in our tiny home on wheels, as Dave would call it, we had the amazing opportunity to try this for the very first time, which was essentially a tortilla with peanut butter and jelly on it. Stupid simple, like little roll-ups that were very easy, compact to bring, whether you were running or whether you just needed a quick snack before you were getting ready to run. It was absolutely awesome. And so it inspired the taco for this week, which is peanut butter and jelly tacos. Super simple, you guys. Isn't maybe something that you would eat all the time, but I do highly recommend it as a wonderful way to fuel up before you go hit a workout, or even something that is very satiating after you hit a workout. So if you are looking for something fun and creative that is a very easy snack to take on, I would definitely go check out the show notes before you leave the episode today. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what happened this weekend. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the Wild West Relay, it is essentially a 200-mile race that starts in Fort Collins and ends in Steamboat Springs. Now, this is a relay that has been going on for several years, and they have given people several options as far as ways to complete it. The way that I completed it was on a 12-person team, which actually turned out to be a 10-person team because we unfortunately had two of our members go down and get sick right before the big day. But there were 6-person teams, there was 4-person teams, there were people doing like the full 200-mile race. It was absolutely nuts. But it was just so cool and unlike anything I had ever done before. And so again, the way that the relay works is essentially everyone is set up on a leg system. Everyone gets set up with 3 separate legs, for example, if you were on the 12-person team. You have 2 different vans that are operating, runners 1 through 6, and then runners 7 through 12. I was in van number 2 for runners 7 through 12. I was actually runner number 12, which means that I was the last runner to go for the first leg, but also the very last runner to go and finish the entire race as well, too. So everyone completed their 3 legs in the order of which the runner they were. And these runs would happen at any point, right? Our team started at 7 a.m. on Friday morning, and we ended at 11-something a.m. on Saturday. So we went all the way through the night. And so there were times where you were driving around and just like exchanging with different runners at different points. And then there was other times where you were just sitting at a major exchange point for 4 to 6 hours waiting for the other van to go through all of their legs. So it was just such a crazy experience. Like I said, unlike anything I'd ever done before, but it was awesome. And I cannot wait to do it again next year because it just, I don't know, it was just, it made me happy. So people are like, seriously, running that many miles and like not getting anything but maybe 2 hours of sleep over a course of 36 hours, that makes you happy? Well, yes, I suffered a little bit, but it was just such a cool way to get outside and to challenge yourself physically and mentally in ways that a lot of things can't do for you. And so with that being said, I wanted to just talk about some of the things that came from each of my personal legs that I ran, and how that's continuing to better me as a person, as an athlete that aspires to hit and accomplish some big goals and dreams this year. It just was so incredible, and I'm just excited to walk through each one of those with you. So, the first thing that I want to say is that overall, what this experience highlighted, unlike anything else, is something that I fully believe in, which is where your thoughts go, your energy will flow, and ultimately that is what will shape what is to come. I cannot tell you time and time again how important your mindset is and the way that you speak to yourself. That is going to make or break you. And I talked about that a lot last week, of how that is the difference between where you are and where it is that you want to be. And so if you are still struggling and just wondering, when is it ever going to be your turn? When are you ever going to make a breakthrough? You need to take a step back and look at how you're talking to yourself and think about, can I talk to myself in a better way? Is the way that I'm talking to myself actually serving me and allowing for me to get to my potential, to get to where it is that I want to be? And if it's not, then we need to take some steps in order to do that first before we could ever move forward, right? There's only so much that the physical training can take you to, and that physical training can be in an athletic standpoint, such as the workouts that you're doing, or it can be in a professional standpoint, right? From the certifications that you're getting, all the education that you're putting underneath your belt, the hours that you're working. None of that matters unless your headspace is in the right place. So we need to remember that that is the place to start and the place to focus in order to see the growth that we want. So let's just talk about leg one. So like I said, van one started at 7 a.m. and our van, I want to say, started around like 10 or 11 something. I can't remember the exact time. But like I said, I was the last runner out of the 6 runners that were in our van, which ended up only being 5 because, again, that one person got sick, or I guess there was 2 people that got sick, 1 from each van. But I woke up that day and I was like, wait, I'm about to like not sleep for like 24 to 36 hours and I'm running a lot of miles. Okay. Sounds good. Like, I wasn't even like fully aware of what was happening. My body wasn't totally prepared. So when it finally came to my time, you know, you start to get this adrenaline, like, okay, like, here we go. And the thing that hit me right away was this mindset of like, I feel like I have to prove myself. I feel like I have to prove something to someone. And I just kept thinking to myself over and over again, I just don't want to let my team down. I want to make them proud. And so I started off on my first leg, and it was rolling hills at 2 p.m., which was right around 95 to 105 degrees. Luckily, I had a decent amount of cloud coverage, but it was freaking hot. Granted, it was only, I think, 2.5 miles. Like all of our first legs, some of them were pretty short, some of them were longer, but a decent amount of us had some shorter legs. And it was freaking miserable. Like within the first couple of minutes, I was like, I haven't even gotten to mile 1 and I am already struggling. Like, I am sucking wind. It is hot. My body feels fatigued. I am just mentally not in this to win this whatsoever, right? And so along the way, they tell you when you have 1 mile left to go, and I finally hit that mark after battling my mind the whole way. And then as I come up and over the hill, I see the exchange and I see my team waiting there for me to create the pass off. And I just went on like a full out, let's do this, let's get this done. And oh my gosh, it hurts so badly. And I have a video of this, and you just see me like tap off to the person, and I instantly go to my knees and I start to almost sit down on the floor. And Dave was like, "You okay?" And I just like shook my head. And he goes, "How was that?" And I said, "It was terrible. I could not mentally lock in. Like, I am not in it to win it whatsoever." And I was like upset with myself because I'm like, I have worked so hard the last 3 to 6 months to improve my running. And I feel like what I just did was like just ridiculous. Like, it was just so not representative of what I know that I can do. And it just made me feel like I took a huge step backwards, even though the heat, running on concrete, doing rolling hills, being at a higher altitude and elevation, like there were so many other factors at play outside of the fact that I also didn't really get the chance to warm up that much. There's only so much that you can do when all you're doing is driving around waiting for your time to go, and then you have a few minutes to kind of get ready and then go for it, right? I just was like a little peeved at myself that I didn't do better. And so upon reflection, we actually had the opportunity to go and drive. It was about an hour and a half away, the next big exchange from where our van 1 would come and tap us off to do our overnight legs. and we had the opportunity to hang out this cute little woodland resort place. And so it was just like there was a river. We got to hang up a hammock, just chill out, eat some yummy foods. Dave got to throw the football around with some dudes. It was awesome, and got to watch the sunset. I mean, it was just so pretty, and probably one of my favorite parts of the whole experience was just getting to be there and to relax and snuggle my boyfriend. But during all that time between, you know, napping and just being silent with myself, I realized in that moment that I was operating from a mindset that wasn't serving me. Not just the like, okay, why am I not doing better mindset, but the mindset of I don't want to let people down. I want to prove to people that I can do this, and I want to prove something that I can, right? I want to make people proud. And while I do believe that sometimes if you can't do it for yourself, do it for someone else, while I do believe that there is power in that, in this specific situation, it was not the key. It was not the way to go. I was almost operating out of a fear of failure when I really look at it, that place that I was coming from wasn't from a place of growth and internal inspiration. It was from a place of fear of failure, because I didn't want to upset the team. I didn't want to be the reason that we didn't do as well. And I just had felt that the whole time of just telling myself subconsciously that I'm the weakest link on this team, and that if we lose or if we don't do as well as we want, it would be my fault. And that hit me really hard on the first leg, because I was so busy trying to run like everyone else that I completely forgot that who I was as an athlete and why I was doing this in the first place. And so I think that that's really important to just mention to those of you that are athletes or those of you that are shooting for big goals in your life, is that when you operate from this space of fear of failure, or you operate from the space of I'm just trying to like prove something to make other people proud, you're going to lose sight of your why, and ultimately you're going to lose your potential. And that sucks, especially when you work your ass off to do the dang thing and to perform the dang thing when it's time. And so when you enter that next big moment of your life, again, personally, professionally, athletically, whatever that looks like, please check yourself, right? Please check yourself the night before into the morning, or whatever it is, the moments leading up to it, that you're operating from the right space and that is not from a fear of failure. It's a fine line, I should say. It's okay to have fear, to feel that adrenaline, right? Because when we're operating in that space of fear, like, whoa, I'm doing something that's uncomfortable, that is a good thing, right? Because it means that we're pushing ourselves. But if our why and the reason that we're doing this and our mindset is purely focused around, I am afraid to fail and therefore I want to prove something to someone, that is where it starts to go south. So you need to check yourself on that and make sure that you're operating from the right space and that this is for you and not for anyone else, or to try and prove something to someone else. So that was what the first leg ultimately taught me. So now going into leg 2, right, I had the opportunity to really learn these lessons, and I got to adapt and look at this next opportunity, which was, I think, 5.4, 5.6, just right around the 5.5 mile mark. Overnight was my next leg. I think I started my run between 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning, and it was a whole different ball game. And I just want to say this, you guys, this leg that I ran in the middle of the night, at first I was a little nervous when I saw the people in my van running, and it was just like pitch black and all you had was a flashlight and a headlamp. Like, it was kind of terrifying and it looked eerie. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do. I've never done this before. Like, this actually kind of scares me. When it was my turn to go, that like pitch black almost put on the perfect blinders for me to just go internal and focus on what I know how to do best. This was my favorite leg that I ran in the entire race. During those 5.5 miles, I got to just be totally with myself and get into that runner's high moment and just watch myself excel. And what was really funny about this piece is Dave was obviously in my van, but all of the people that were in my van, they went and they parked at right around the halfway point just to check in on me. We did that with every single runner. It's just like, hey, we're going to check on you around 2.5, 3 miles, whatever the case is, just to make sure you don't need more fuel, more water, that you're doing okay. So we could all feel supported and safe ultimately. And so they did that. And he didn't even recognize that it was me at first. He was like, wait, is that you? Oh, yep, that's Kayla. Like, because I was so confident And I was just on a whole other level that he was like, you looked like a freaking gazelle. Your stride looked amazing. You just were so happy and joyful and confident and just like, you just glided. It was awesome. And it was really, really cool to hear that and also know that I was experiencing the same thing. And when I got to that 1 mile to go, I was like, I have so much left in the tank right now. I'm ready to push and just top this amazing experience off, like just put the freaking cherry on top of it right now. And so I ended up doing that leg in 49 minutes, which through rolling hills, again, considering that this is not something that I do that often, to do that in 49 minutes was a huge accomplishment for me. 5.4-ish miles in 49 minutes. Like, I know for some people, like, oh, that's slow. I don't even care. For me, it didn't matter because A, I hit my goal of doing it within 50 minutes, and B, I got to like truly be with myself and with the thoughts that I wanted to have and actually show myself like, you have improved so much. And I was so thankful that I gave myself the space to separate from what happened earlier in the day and to just do what I needed to do in that moment for me. And what I want to say about that specifically is that sometimes your worst moments are setting you up for your best. And that is exactly what the very first leg did for me in leg 2. Having that worst moment wasn't a, well, crap, like I'm never going to do like well in this race now because of how I just performed. Like it's all over for me. I'm just not in it. I was able to actually take from that experience, learn the lessons, adapt how I needed to, and then separate myself really well from that past experience, realizing that I had a brand new fresh slate in front of me, and then go out there and allow for what just happened to set me up for an incredible experience in leg 2. And so if you just went through like the freaking shitter, excuse my language, can you just realize how much of a gift that is and realize that that moment is setting you up for something great? And it might not be tomorrow, it might not be in the next week or in the next month, but I can promise you, if you look at it that way, it will come and you are going to realize why you went through that experience and how valuable it was in setting it yourself up for what it is that you're about to accomplish now. Leg 2 also highlighted that having a game plan keeps you internally focused rather than letting comparison and fear of failure get to you. Like I was super intentional about, okay, during this, like, this is what I want to think about and this is how I want to approach it. It's a very similar profile as far as elevation gain, as far as ascending, descending, just the overall like rolling hills, the terrain that I was essentially going through. It was very similar, but it was twice the distance, at least over twice the distance. And so I wanted to go into it with an actual game plan versus like, let's just run and do the best that we can. And that game plan, again, allowed for me to come back internally and really listen to myself and my body and what it is that I needed. And I wasn't thinking about how Dave would have done it if he ran this leg or how every other stronger runner on the team would have done if they would have ran this leg. I wasn't fearful about not doing well enough to make the team proud. I was just like so freaking stoked on my strategy and the fact that I knew how to execute this and execute this well. And it was that and more. And what ended up happening is people were really proud of me and they were expecting me to come in around a certain time, and I like completely impressed them with the fact that I came in a good handful of minutes earlier than what they had expected. So sorry for the person that ran after me. They kind of were caught off guard and didn't get much time to put their head on straight before they went, because I just like came in hot. But it was really good. It was really, really good for me. And then the final leg. So again, being runner 12, I had the honor of finishing the race for the entire team, which again is an honor, but it's also kind of terrifying at the same time, right? Like your team just set you up to finish this race, and depending on where you are, it could be like the make or break moment, right? Depending on how you look at this. Our team had performed so well, and by this point we were for sure in the top 10 teams, but we weren't exactly sure how close we were to the top 5 or just the top of the pack. We knew we were up there, but it was hard to tell because we were all, as teams, released at different points, so we didn't know who was actually winning the race and who was going to be on the podium, etc. But we knew that we were really, really close. And so coming into this last leg, I had to take the incredible experience that I had from leg 2, but then also take this thing of like, look, I'm not going to let this pressure freak me out. I'm going to let it be a privilege. I'm going to let this privilege that I've been granted, I'm going to allow for it to push me and push me in ways that I didn't think was possible, but still operate under a plan that I know that I can execute, not just push myself to the limit to then completely blow up and then lose because I didn't do what I needed to do because I was too busy focusing on on the wrong things, I should say. So going in the leg 3, I was talking strategy with my team, and I told the people in the car that I hated to be hunted down, but I love being the hunter. And based off of where we were at, like there was someone that took off about 2 minutes before me, and I was like, this is it. I get to go on a hunt. Granted, this dude was a really good runner and you could tell, but that was exciting to me that I had the opportunity to go and chase down someone really freaking good. So I start off on leg 3. It is hot as all hell. And the thing that kind of freaked me out a little bit was about a minute before my teammate came and tagged me off to go, this guy was trying to explain to me of where to go. And it was hard because you were at the end of the race, which means that you were running through some residential areas. And so there was a lot of stimulus. You had to look for these signs and just pray to God you didn't get lost. And I asked him, I was like, okay, well, once I get past this point, is it fairly easy to navigate? And he goes, yeah. And then all of a sudden, here comes my purse, and I get tagged off, and I go. Within the first, 30 to 60 seconds, I realize I'm already going the wrong way, so I have to, go through a little backtrack, go underneath the tunnel. I'm going through the residential areas. I get on this path, realize that the sign that I need to go follow is way over to the right, so I have to cut across people's yards to go find that sign. And then I get to this one sign, and I'm already kind of freaking out, okay, Kayla, keep your head on straight. I know you've only had realistically 2 hours of sleep within the last 24 hours, but we've got to lock this shit up. And so I see the sign. I swear that it says to take a right. And so I take a right, and then I'm probably a quarter of a mile down, and I'm not seeing any signs. And I'm starting to freak out, I don't want to go any further if I'm going the wrong way, because if I'm going the wrong way, if I go further, I could really screw myself up and then get really, really lost. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be safe rather than sorry. I'm going to turn my way back around, and I am going to go and make sure that I'm going the right way and that I went the right way from the turn. And so to set this up, when we were finishing up the leg prior, Dave had basically set us up to have a 6-minute lead. We left the same exact time as the team that we were head and head with. And he caught us up an additional 6 minutes because he just freaking bombed like a badass down this huge downhill descent. That's what he's really good at. It was super cool to watch him do that. But we started, like I said, with this group, and he finished 6 minutes ahead of him. So we had a 6-minute leeway. Well, as I was going down, I had to basically, again, I ran a fourth of a mile, and then I probably backtracked the same fourth of a mile to look. Well, when I did that, I looked at the sign, realized that I was going the right way, and I looked up, and the other team was maybe 200 meters behind me. And I was like, shit. And so I took off, and I was like, all right, we can't freak out here, because if we freak out, our heart rate's going to get high. We're going to go into a stressful place, and we're definitely not going to do well here. We just got to stay calm, and we just have to keep consistently moving and know that that's going to be more than enough. We don't need to try and win it right here in the first mile. We just need to keep consistently moving. Then when we get to the downhill at the very end, we go all out and empty the tank, and that's it. So eventually I start to find my way, and it's an incline the entire way up. So once you get past the first mile, the next mile and a half is all through these switchbacks going up the hill through the residential areas. And so your legs are just slowly starting to burn. You're just dying out here in this heat. You're sweating like hell. Your heart rate's through the roof. It was something. it was freaking something. And each switchback that I made, I took a little look over my shoulder and realized that each one that I made, I was putting even more distance on this guy that was behind me. And so a couple more switchbacks up, I looked and I couldn't see him anywhere in sight. And I was like, beautiful. This is where I can take a hot second to rest. So I did like a 30-second power hike, and then I did a 30-second jog, 30-second power hike, 30-second jog. And I just intervaled it out for a few moments. Then I got to the point where I realized we were about to go downhill. And I don't think I've ever ran so fast going downhill in my entire life. Let me tell you guys, I freaking buried that person in the dust, because what ended up happening is I went down the downhill. I went up the last hill that there was. My team was waiting for me by the finish line, and we ended up finishing the race, right? I finished the race. He didn't come in till at least 6 to 10 minutes after me. And guys, I'm not even kidding you. He was like maybe 200 meters behind me by the time that I realized that I was actually going the right direction, and I had to backtrack to figure that out. So I was so proud of myself for what it is that I did, and just how awesome that was. And so what I want to share from that is, you don't always get what you want, but you will get what you need. And what you need is not always comfortable. I did not want to be hunted. I really didn't. I wanted to hunt people down. But instead I got what I needed, which was to be hunted. And being in that uncomfortable place benefited me more and set me more up for my goals than I ever could have imagined. I remember thinking in the moment where I was being hunted, of like, just again, trying to keep my mindset in the right spot, I was thinking, this is such a gift. This is such a privilege to be in this pressure, because in 3 to 4 short months from now, you are going to be racing in the elite race, or in the elite wave at DEKA World Championships. And guess what? You know what you can do, and people are going to be chasing you down. So this is your first smack at feeling that pressure and being able to execute underneath it. And that mindset was like, okay, this is a privilege. Let's go after it. Let's hit it hard. And it was just so awesome. And so just a reminder that, again, you don't always get what you want, you get what you need. And what you need is probably never going to be comfortable. But if you lean into that, what you get on the other side is worth everything and more. So just lean into it hard, and realize that you're not wrong, you're not failing, you're exactly where it is that you're supposed to be. So now, the final finish, okay? As I was running up the hill to my team, I was so excited, and I was also so depleted and had like no energy left whatsoever. And I didn't know where the finish line was. I just saw my people, and I kind of saw these cones. So I thought, okay, that's the finish line. So I like went into a really good run that was as much as I could give, as fast as I could go. And I hit them, and then they were like, okay, keep going. And I was like, what? We're not finished yet? And like in that moment, like when you think that you're done and your body is like, finally some reprieve, and then it finds out, no, you ain't done yet. That shock that goes through your body, like your legs literally feel like 100-pound, your heart rate like is just through the roof. You're just like, oh my God, you've got to be absolutely kidding me right now. That sucked. That sucked a lot. But luckily, all we had to do was like turn the corner, go a little bit further, and then there we were at the finish line. And as I'm watching the video of me in the finish, you could see me put my hand on my hips, and my head goes down, because you can tell I'm like slightly defeated, of like, why aren't we done yet? But then I come back to myself, and I take a couple of breaths, and then I'm able to pick up the pace and pick up the pace and pick up the pace all the way through the finish line. So here's where I want to leave you for today, is that in these moments where it's easy to say, I can't, give yourself more credit for what you are capable of, and choose to bet on yourself. When you take yourself to that place, you find the ability to go even deeper and discover just how strong you really are. And it was such a gift that I had the opportunity to do just that in those final moments. And now I'm encouraging you to do the same thing in whatever endeavor it is that you are currently after. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today, and I hope that this episode truly resonated. If it did, you know the drill. Please be sure to share this podcast with a friend or family member that absolutely needs to hear this. And if you haven't already, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Until next time, you guys, go and create the ending to your story that you are capable of and fully deserving of. And then I will, of course, see you next week for another episode of Taco About It Tuesday. See you then.